The Tory meltdown is in full swing, and Chris Philp is scrambling to contain the damage. Reform UK is surging in the polls, Nigel Farage is on the offensive, and the Conservative Party looks weaker than ever. But instead of acknowledging the looming disaster, Philp is doing what politicians do best, downplaying the truth and hoping the public doesn't notice. Speaking to GB News, Philp tried to dismiss Reform UK's momentum, insisting that the party is not overtaking the Conservatives. But the data tells a very different story. Just yesterday, a Find Out Now poll revealed that Reform UK has hit a staggering 27%, not only surpassing the Tories, but even overtaking Labour. A political earthquake is underway, but according to Philp, it's all overblown. This is where the desperation kicks in. When the facts are against them, the politicians spin. Check out this clip of Chris Philp trying to downplay the Reform UK threat. Watch closely.
This is the Reform Party. I mean, they're holding a conference tonight in Kemi Badenoch's constituency as they continue to smash you in the polls. I mean, that's got to be a concern. It's time to talk, isn't it?
Well, they're not smashing the Conservatives in the polls, obviously. Most polls over the last 3 or 4 months have the Conservatives ahead of Reform. And as we saw, and the Reform, I mean, Nigel Farage has said he doesn't want to do any deals, right? So, and he said he wants to destroy the Conservative Party. But in fact, what Reform did at the last election was they did exactly what we warned about. They handed Labour a landslide. Labour have got a massive parliamentary majority on only 34% of the vote at the last election. And it's obviously gone down a lot since then. And because essentially in the number of seats where we might have retained a Conservative MP, Reform didn't win, didn't even come close to winning, but got enough votes to hand the seat to Labour. And we've now got left-wing, woke Labour MPs who won those seats because Reform took a few votes that would ordinarily be Conservative, let Labour in, and now they're doing, like, they've introduced a bill yesterday, you probably saw, which completely cancels the Rwanda scheme. So we can't now send people, the government, even if it wanted to, couldn't send people to Rwanda. That would have worked. That would have stopped the channel crossings. We saw it work in Australia. But in government, a couple of years ago, we passed an act of parliament called the Illegal Migration Act, which said that illegal immigrants can never, ever get citizenship, right? That was the right thing to do that we did in government, the Conservatives. Labour are now going to scrap that. So illegal immigrants can get citizenship, which is a complete disgrace. And because Reform, unfortunately, stood in all those seats last summer, and they handed Labour that landslide, this is what Starmer is now doing with that landslide, giving illegal immigrants citizenship rights.
OK, Chris Philp, we're out of time, sadly, but good to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But here's the problem. Philp's argument collapses under the weight of the evidence. Reform UK isn't just taking a few Tory votes, they're leading in some polls. A Survation poll puts them at 24%, ahead of the Tories' 22%. Labour is still ahead, but only by 3 points. In other words, we are witnessing a major political shift, and Reform UK is no longer just a protest party. They are becoming a serious electoral force. Philp's strategy? Blame Reform for Labour's dominance. According to him, Nigel Farage is sabotaging the Conservative Party rather than fighting Labour. He claimed, Nigel Farage has said he doesn't want to do any deals. He said he wants to destroy the Conservative Party. And if that's true, Farage is succeeding spectacularly. But Philp didn't stop there. In a desperate bid to remind voters why they should fear Labour, he went after Keir Starmer's immigration policies. He pointed to Labour's decision to scrap the Rwanda deportation plan, warning that Starmer's government is actively encouraging illegal immigration. Labour introduced a bill yesterday which completely cancels the Rwanda scheme, so we can't now send people to Rwanda. That would have worked. That would have stopped the channel crossings. This is a classic Tory move. When in trouble, blame Labour. But the reality is, the Conservatives had 14 years to fix immigration, and they failed. That's precisely why Reform UK is rising. People have lost faith in the empty promises, the tough talk with no action, and the endless betrayals. And that brings us to another voice hammering the Conservatives today. Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice. While Philp was busy pretending Reform UK isn't a threat, Tice was out delivering one of his most brutal attacks yet on the Tory party, accusing them of a complete Brexit betrayal. 5 years after Britain left the EU, Tice says the Conservative government has utterly failed to deliver the promises of Brexit. And the biggest betrayal? Immigration. The skies are grey with disappointment on Brexit Day because all the opportunity, it was the right thing to do with this great vote here. People are disappointed with the Tory government's utter failure to take advantage of this great opportunity. He's not wrong. Instead of tightening borders, net migration has exploded, hitting 900,000 in 2023. That's nearly 1 million people in a single year. The very people who voted Leave to regain control of Britain's borders are now watching in horror as mass immigration continues unchecked. And Tice isn't letting the Tories off the hook. He tore into their handling of the issue, slamming their refusal to introduce a sensible immigration policy. Instead of prioritising skilled workers who speak English and contribute to society, the system has been flooded with unregulated arrivals. What we've got to do is get rid of this dreadful Labour government who want to drag us closer to the failing, sclerotic, recessionary European Union. For Tice, the answer is simple. Mass immigration must end. Actually, if you restrict the labour supply, if you have net zero immigration, which is what we want, then guess what? Wages will go up for British citizens, opportunities will grow, and he's not wrong. The entire point of Brexit was to protect British jobs, wages, and opportunities. Instead, the government has pursued policies that hurt the very people who voted for Brexit in the first place. But here's the real kicker. It's not even the EU immigrants anymore. The Tories did stop free movement from Europe, but they compensated by opening the floodgates to the rest of the world. The result? Record numbers of work visas, student visas, and dependents arriving with little oversight. Tice made that crystal clear, calling the latest figures an absolute disgrace. Not this lunacy where we've just seen in recent days where you've got like 15,000 health and social care workers and 60,000 dependents coming with them, not working. That's idiocy. No common sense whatsoever. So let's have a smart immigration policy, not a mass daft immigration policy. And he's not the only one making this point. Brexit supporters across the country are furious. They were promised control over Britain's borders. Instead, they got a massive influx of non-EU immigration, making the entire Brexit argument look like a joke. The Office for Budget Responsibility, the government's own economic forecaster, has already confirmed what many suspected. Brexit has hurt the UK economy, with trade down 15%. And now, with uncontrolled immigration still an issue, even former Brexit voters are asking, what was the point? This is why Reform UK is rising. People are sick and tired of the betrayals. They are done with the false promises. The Tories told them they would lower migration. They didn't. They promised they would get Brexit done properly. They didn't. And now, Philp is standing there, smugly claiming that Reform UK is no real threat. The polls tell a different story, and so does the public mood. People are looking for real change, and if Reform UK keeps gaining ground, Nigel Farage might not just be a threat to the Tories, he might be their executioner. So, what do you think? Is this the end of the Conservative Party as we know it? Is Reform UK the real right-wing alternative Britain needs? Or is this just another temporary shift in the polls? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned, because this political storm is just getting started.